The Ryzen 7600X3D, is it any good for Star Citizen? Now, you couldn't buy this CPU in the UK up until relatively recently, and it's not available everywhere, but I have had some people ask me, is this worth picking up? It's a 6-core, 12-thread version of the 7800X3D, which has obviously been a very good CPU for Star Citizen, but it does lose some clock speed, and it's pretty low powered, and does it still hold up as a kind of good CPU for the game? Well, let's get into a load of testing. It's taking me a long time, so like the video and subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Let's crack on with the testing. First up, here we are just in quantum travel. This is not something that actually shows you anything to do with the CPUs. This is here to again demonstrate that Star Citizen is sometimes CPU bottlenecked, sometimes GPU bottlenecked. In this case, no matter what you throw at the game, the 5080 is going to be the bottleneck here. We're testing at 1080p, as you do with CPUs, because you want to put most of the strain onto the CPU, but still in this case, we're actually on the GPU. On the horizon roof though, now we can see some scaling going up from the 5800X3D all the way up to the 9800X3D. And so you can see that in this scenario, the 7600X3D looks like a pretty decent deal. It's not really that far behind the 7800X3D and the 9700X. So maybe you might be thinking, oh, maybe this is a potential option for more of a budget buy. But when you get to Lorville, you can see this is with lots and lots of runs behind each one of these. So I'm most happy with this data. You can see that there is actually a fairly decent reduction in performance compared to the 7800X3D. So it's tricky. You're not that far ahead actually of the 5800X3D. And the question is, what's going on here? So again, the differences between the 7800X3D and the 7600X3D are, there's a few. So we're obviously talking clock speed of it is reduced. There's less cores. So it's quite hard to pin down exactly why the 7600X3D isn't performing quite as well, but it's not. And so you'd look at this and you'd think, maybe it's not worth buying. And then when you look at the prices of all these things, it's quite interesting actually. The 9800X3D in the UK, we'll use UK prices for now. At the moment, you can pick one up for £400. The 7800X3D is only £50 cheaper, £350, and the 7600X3D is £280, and actually a 9700X for even less, £270. Now, I don't really love cost per frame analysis stuff. I don't think it's that relevant, but we'll have a look at it here anyway. You can see that still actually the 9700X is still really the bargain buy, so to speak. It's not necessarily cheap, but I mean, I don't really think when you're looking at Star Citizen, any sort of cost per frame stuff is that relevant. You're saying, most people are saying, well, I want the game performs so kind of poorly that I want the best performance possible, and so you probably would spend the extra money to go all the way up to the 78 or the 9800X3D. Yeah, you would notice the difference here between the 9800X3D and the 7600X3D in Lorville running around it, but just in general in parts of the games, I think it would be significantly kind of noticeable, the difference in performance. And so that shows you that the budget option probably isn't the 7600X3D. And then for a bit of extra testing, I just wanted to look at how this cores of the 9700X scale as you turn them off. So looking at this graph, you've got at the top the stock version of that CPU, and then I've been into the BIOS and I've turned off a couple of cores to make a 6-core 12-thread version and then a 4-core 8-thread version as well. And so you can see that things do scale as you turn off the cores. And so yes, there'll be some cache stuff going on as you turn them off, but they're all running at the same frequency here. And it does seem as though Star Citizen, at least we're looking here at the AMD AM5 side of things, it will demand and use more than 6 cores, 12 threads. Now, you might be saying, well, what happens if you go even further? Go get one of the crazy ones with loads of cores and threads. And in the past, I've tested, I think it was the 7950X3D or something like that. Didn't perform any differently from the 78 at that point. So there gets a point where more cores don't seem to make much difference. But in a recommendation, if you're saying to somebody, oh, what would you recommend for Star Citizen? It does look, again, on the AMD side, it looks as though potentially you are starting at an 8-core, 16-thread thing for the maximum performance you can get. So what do we do with all this information? Well, it probably means that we rule out the 7600X3D as a really great option for Star Citizen. You'd probably be better getting the 9700X and it's cheaper and performs a bit better by the looks of things, at least. So that's probably that. It's a shame because in theory, the X3D stuff really does help, and you can see as you go higher and higher up the stack towards 7800 X3D and the 9800 X3D, they pull away from the other chips. But it looks as though whether it's core frequency being down a little bit versus the 7800 X3D, or it's just the core count itself, which we talked about, it seems as though the 7600 X3D isn't really worth your attention, is how I'd probably sum this up.